Welcome back to Dream It, Build It, Make It, the series where we're talking to some of the people behind the best customer experiences. If you're new here, awesome. Great to have you. Thanks for taking the time to watch. And if you've been here before, great. I always appreciate it when you keep coming back. Be sure to subscribe. I'm your host, Michael Heward, Manager of Content Marketing here at Iterable. And today I am joined by two amazing members of the CRM marketing team at Policygenius, Elle Monah and Sara Yamamoto. Welcome.
Hi, Michael.
I'm so glad you can be here today and taking the time to talk to me. Sara, let's start with you. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing at Policygenius?
Absolutely. Well, let me take a second to just thank you so much for having us here today, Michael. Really excited to chat with you. My name is Sara Yamamoto. I'm one of the CRM Marketing Managers at Policygenius, and I manage the lifecycle marketing for the home and auto insurance product.
Awesome. And Elle?
Thanks for having us again, Michael. I'm Elle Monah. I'm a CRM Marketing Manager at Policygenius, and I manage our life insurance product.
Awesome. And if you could just tell us a little bit more about what Policygenius does, I think some people might want to learn a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. So a quick overview of Policygenius. We're an online insurance marketplace, which means we help our customers compare and buy insurance plans on one place, similar to the way you would with travel like Expedia or Kayak. We also, we also recently expanded to offer digital wills and trusts. Should I start over? Sorry.
No, it's fine. We can power through it. It's fine. Like, it's a conversation. I think Policygenius is doing great things because insurance is something that has confused the hell out of me for years. So it's really cool. I've been through this site. You guys have a lot of cool guides. But before we dive into exactly what you're doing, I like to start out by asking, I guess, as consumers, what is your preferred customer experience? What are some features that you really enjoy? So I think we started with Sara last time. Elle, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, I love this question. Let me say that a great customer experience should be thoughtful, responsive, and effective. I personally like knowing that I'm buying from a brand that is considerate of my broader needs, accessible to me in a variety of channels, and doesn't make me jump through hoops to use their product or purchase their service.
Yeah, just keep it seamless and easy. I like that.
Exactly.
Sara, what about you?
Yeah, to Elle's point, as a consumer, a great customer experience to me means an unforgettable, positive experience that really leaves a lasting impression, whether that's in person, over the phone, or digitally. So I love seeing relevant information sent to my inbox based on my behavior, really, like product recommendations after I went shopping at a clothing store. Also really user-friendly design on the website and being able to easily connect with the customer support team are big pluses for me.
Yeah, I love a good design. Makes it so much easier. And so I feel like I'm constantly bringing this up, but with the pandemic, things changed. And with insurance, I'm sure the impact was pretty massive. So I'm curious, how did the pandemic impact your customer base, and how did your team respond?
Yeah, I can talk about this one. We saw the biggest impact on life insurance, where an important part of the process for most shoppers is a required health exam, where a third-party vendor comes to your house or office and takes your vitals. You can imagine not a lot of people were comfortable with a stranger coming into their home to take their blood pressure or even draw blood, I should say. And so we focused on three main categories when making changes to our customer experience: education, offering other coverage options, and re-engagement. For education, right away, we audited all of our comms to identify the best places to include COVID-related content. So this included the very first email shoppers received to any emails that mentioned their medical exam. We also highlighted the safety precautions examiners were taking, such as wearing masks and gloves and washing their hands before each client. As far as offering other coverage options, in May of 2020, we launched a no exam life insurance product where eligible users could complete the medical requirement or skip it entirely. We pivoted eligible shoppers to this exam-free product so they could get the coverage they needed without waiting. And finally, re-engagement. Throughout this process, we allowed shoppers to pause the process for coverage if they wanted to, and instead pivoted them to what they could do, like reviewing their application or revisiting their coverage needs. And we prepared multiple re-engagement strategies that were implemented when states reopened or when shoppers felt comfortable with continuing their search for life insurance.
Yeah, that's great. I'm sure it was a very stressful time for your team as well as all of your customer base. And so I'm curious, Sarah, we can swing to you. Being an online marketplace, your relationships have been digital, and a lot of other companies have had to go through that transformation. But what are some of the ways that, and I think Elle touched on this a little bit, what are some of the ways that you maintained a strong relationship through your digital channels? Can you kind of walk us through what it would be like for me per se to be a typical customer with Policygenius? How does that journey get started?
Yeah, absolutely. So our customer journey really starts as soon as the customer finds out about Policygenius, whether that's through social media, our website, PR, direct mail, you name it. But CRM really takes over the journey as soon as the customer starts the product flow and saves their progress by inputting their email address. And so our messages are really mostly transactional. So we follow up with their request and provide next steps via email, SMS, and direct mail. And to your point about maintaining strong relationships with customers through the digital channels, we really strive to send personalized messages based on their specific stage in their insurance shopping journey, really focusing on what their next step is. So for example, if a customer requests for home and auto insurance, we would typically follow up with them to get more information about their driver's license and VIN numbers, which are actually required to send accurate auto insurance quotes. And lastly, we also really make it easy for our customers to get in touch with our licensed agents. So if they have any questions about their policy or need a little bit of advice on what kind of coverage they need for their specific needs. And so our customers can actually get in touch with our agents very easily by calling in or simply responding to any email or text message.
Oh, very cool. I actually was just reminded, I just got a Policygenius direct mail yesterday.
Oh, there you go.
It was like
how exciting.
Total kismet. I was just like, oh, I'm talking to them tomorrow. Yeah, I think that's great. It's really cool that there's so many different ways that customers can communicate with you. And it's good, especially like I was saying, it's a complicated topic. So it's good that there's always that education aspect to it. So if other companies wanted to be digital like your team is, Elle, how do they get started? Like, what are a few things they need to know in order to be able to make that switch?
The number one thing to know is what goal your customer is trying to accomplish. Figure out what motivates them to engage with your brand beyond the purchase of your product. And the best way to do that is to collect feedback. This can come from a variety of sources. Speak with your customer-facing teams, look through comments on your social media channels, or do plain old user research. And the final part of this, and I think a lot of brands tend to ignore this, look at those inbox replies. Often brands will say like, this inbox is not monitored. Well, it should be monitored because you're getting real-time feedback of what your customers want and also what they don't want. For example, if you're emailing them too much or they say, call me at XYZ time or text me, is the perfect place.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And the other part, sorry.
I just was gonna say it's fantastic advice. I hate the idea of giving feedback and being like, this is gonna get lost somewhere. No one's gonna look at this. But continue, yeah.
The other part of this is that your strategy should be personalized as much as possible. It's great to send relevant content to users, and I think a lot of brands are great at doing that, but leading with an omni-channel strategy is a big place where I see brands can improve.
Yes, definitely. Like Sarah was talking about, that omni-channel ability is great. And so I think the feedback conversation is actually huge for this. It builds that sense of trust between the consumer and the brand. And so, Sarah, I mentioned it a couple of times. Insurance research is a requirement. You need to be able to see everything. You need to be able to make sure that it's the right fit for that customer. So how do you and your team ensure that customers trust the information you're providing? And how do the different channels that we were just talking about help enforce that trust?
Yeah, definitely. Trust is very important to us, especially in the industry we're in. So we strive to make our emails as informative and unbiased as possible and overall helpful. Our number one goal is to help our customers figure out what the best insurance they need for their needs. So we often link back to our Learn Center on our website, which is full of articles from our experts vetted by our licensed agents. And we also feature articles from our certified financial planners. We also reinforce trust by including testimonials and real customer reviews in our emails. We're quite proud of our Trustpilot reviews and our Google reviews, as well as our NPS scores. So we try to sprinkle those in all of our comms as much as possible. And ultimately, insurance is really too big of a purchase to offer all content and advice through email alone. So we also lean on our licensed agents to reinforce that trust.
Yeah, the Learn Center is fantastic. It felt almost like a wire cutter for insurance. I've been through that.
That's a great way to put it.
But I'm glad you brought up the purchases. It's a big purchase, and so Elle, it's not something that I'm going to be purchasing every day, every month. How does your team look at retention? That's a huge factor for companies these days.
Yeah, Sarah touched on this a few questions ago, but we try to capture customer intent before we even email the customer. So our product flow gauges where the customer is in their journey, how soon they need coverage, and how familiar they are with the insurance they're searching for. And so we use this information to personalize how we onboard and engage the user, whether it's through educational email content, maybe the frequency of emails, or how soon we put them in touch with a licensed agent. As far as retention, given the long life cycle of purchase, we try to build urgency around recurring milestones. For life insurance, that looks like things like birthdays or rate changes from the insurance carrier. And for home and auto, that looks like messaging around users' quotes expiring or the renewal date of their existing policy. And the third part of this is that we try to create a fully cross-functional re-engagement experience with other teams. So we work with acquisition for Facebook retargeting, our operations teams for putting shoppers in touch with an agent ASAP, and finally with content for re-engaging customers with Easy Money, our internal newsletter.
That's awesome. I like that cross-functional aspect to it. I feel like if you're a Policygenius customer, you're talking to the whole team, like everyone involved. That's awesome. And so I like to round out these conversations with a look to the future, because like, why not? And so I'm curious if you see any gaps in the brand customer or brand consumer relationship. And this can be either for Policygenius or just at large, however you see fit. I've had guests talk about both. But Sarah, why don't we talk about you? Are there any gaps that you feel like there's a good opportunity for brands to improve their customer experience?
Yeah, definitely. I would say companies should definitely focus on personalization, really start by putting yourself in their customer's shoes and focus on how you can make a more generic email a little bit more engaging and personal to the reader. And also really make sure you're sending the right information. The common misses I see are first name and location. So really make sure that it's all accurate.
Definitely.
Absolutely. I would also say brands should, or I would love to see brands take a more holistic approach to customer experience. Often people think the experience starts when the customer is interacting with you, either by receiving your email or talking to your support team. And that's really not the case. Their idea or opinion of you is formed every time they see your ads trailing them around the web. So with retargeting, or every time they see your interaction with another customer on social media. And so looking at the customer experience beyond just when they first speak to you is a really important thing for brands, or should be a really important thing for brands.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Sarah.
Oh, I would just also add, really making sure your communication channels are synced too. I think taking a step back and asking yourself if you really need to send the same message over email and SMS, the chances are you probably don't need to. So definitely check on that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Great advice. Love it. Well, that's all I've got for you. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. This is fantastic. I think our viewers are going to get a lot from this. How can people find you if they have any questions?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. Also, my email address is sarah.yamamoto@policygenius.com.
Similar to Sarah, I'm at Elle.Monah@policygenius.com, also on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Great. Well, I'll put some of those links in the bio below. Thanks again. I really appreciate it. And for everyone out there, thanks so much. And we'll see you next time.